It's extra time. It's Monday night. I'm Dom Aldworth, and this is The Sports Bar.
He's done it! The greatest night in the history of Chelsea Football Club. European champions. They've beaten Bayern in their own backyard. Tuilagi through the first two, through three. And England are going to score again. No one will catch Aston. It's magnificent. There's no other word. Comes Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt storming through. He takes it again. Blake gets the silver. 9.64. Oh, he's retained his title in the most emphatic way.
Welcome to the Monday Night Sports Bar, live from the Talk Radio Europe studios with me, Dom Aldworth, Stuart Joseph and Richard Tilsley. What a great weekend of sport to look back on. And Wales crowned Six Nations champions, denying England the Grand Slam and much more. Rafael Nadal rolls on the 22nd Masters Series victory for him in Indian Wells. And Kimi Räikkönen opens the Formula One season with victory down under. Gentlemen, welcome to the show this evening. That's your cue to start talking, by the way, guys.
Good evening.
About time. I mean, come on, what's wrong with you? Are you dancing away to the tune? You're getting into the tune, are you, Rich?
Well, Stone Roses, mate.
Yeah, good. Classic stuff. Great weekend. Did you enjoy? You have a good weekend?
Yeah, good.
Yeah?
Good. Great weekend of sport.
Not yesterday, Don.
I know we're going to be talking about that
No,
later
not
in the show
yesterday.
at great length. Tottenham Hotspur Football Club going down the pan this season, I'll tell you what.
Saving the worst till last.
Yeah, but we've got to start with something, well, certainly for me, the best sporting event of the weekend, and that was the Six Nations Championships. Good evening to all of you out there as well. Hope you enjoyed your weekend of sport and the Six Nations Championship. It was really build-up though, Rich, wasn't it? Millennium Stadium, you know how passionate the Welsh fans are. The build-up to the game itself was unbelievable, and the match itself lived up to all expectations. For me personally, one of the best international rugby matches I've seen in a long, long time.
Absolutely tremendous. And, you know, the passion that the Welsh team played with was, I thought, absolutely inspirational. And I think they really took their cue from the crowd with the rendition of the Welsh national anthem from the very beginning. And, I mean, that was so rousing. It really was. I mean,
raining outside, roof closed, dry conditions, running rugby is what is expected, and the Welsh did exactly. I mean, they played with passion, but they played with pace, and they played with tremendous skill as well. It turned the clock back to New Zealand World Cup a year and a half ago, something like that. Wales, for me, were probably the second best side in the tournament after New Zealand, the world champions at the time. Tremendous Six Nations, and then injuries set in. Tiredness also crept in as well during the series down under,
well,
and the Autumn International.
If you go back to that 2011 World Cup in New Zealand, you know, you'd have to say that Wales were incredibly unlucky to lose that semi-final against France.
Very much so.
And played, I think, 70 minutes of the match with 14 men. You know, for what was, I think, a very unfair sending-off red card for Sam Warperson. But, you know, the thing is that, you know, you could say that they built on that and, you know, had a great Grand Slam last year. And, you know, the surprise really was, you know, the results in the Autumn Internationals, where they seemed completely out of sorts, and the first half against Ireland.
I mean, 8 matches they were defeated in. They lost to the Irish in the opening round of the Six Nations. They haven't had a try scored against them since then.
Well, I think it was 33 at half-time, wasn't it, against the Irish? And, I mean, you know, there was just some inspired play by the Irish backs on that particular opening afternoon. And, you know, when you think of a couple of the passes that O'Driscoll put through and that lovely bit of skill by Simon Zebo, you know, where he clipped the ball up with his, you know, with his foot in order to catch it, and then went on to score a try. Absolutely stunning rugby. But the sad thing is about the Six Nations is that it started off, you know, with after that very opening weekend with such a huge amount of promise, and you know, a lot of the subsequent matches until the last weekend, you know, were rather turgid affairs, to be honest, and I think games for the purists.
Rich, we've got a caller on the line, so we're going to bring you in. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Good evening.
Steve, you're a brave man. What did I tell you on Friday?
First of all, I'd like to say
Dominic, could you please let Alan know that there's somebody bleeding over on 88.9 Spanish radio station in Benalmádena.
In Benalmádena, okay.
And it's coming over every 45 minutes or so. So I decided to phone in before I couldn't get in.
No worries. Thanks for that, mate.
Secondly, Richard, you have no shame, mate. I mean, at least...
I told you what would happen, didn't I, on Friday?
Me.
I said they would win the front row. The only thing I got wrong, I said Wales would win by 5 points, and they won by 27.
You're shameless, mate. At least your compatriot sitting next to you, he was the first to run up last time. And as for this time, well, I don't know what he's going to say about that. And may I also add, because I don't want to be on the phone for too long, you was trying to tell me last week, the lot of you, that Liverpool were back to their usual winning ways after beating Tottenham, and then you see what happens on this weekend. You see what happens. You give them a chance to mess up, and they do it without even turning up.
Well, I did see the highlights, and no doubt we'll be having a post-mortem on Liverpool's defeat.
We'll be having a post-mortem on Tottenham Hotspur's defeat as well, Steve. So you better listen for that.
I wasn't going to ring up.
But Steve, we're talking about the rugby. Steve, we're talking about the rugby at the moment.
Yeah, I'll go back to
the rugby. Did you watch it?
To the rugby. I wasn't going to ring up, but then I saw the way you was going, and then I was reminded there might be a job going as a pundit on the radio station, so I thought I'd better ring up and just put my 2 pennies worth in, just in case. So, as for the rugby, you know, I had a very good Cheltenham. I think it was probably about 6 winners out of 9 for the week. And I don't like a human being to horseflesh, but when you look at the England team, and it was, in fact, Richard, it was you that reminded me of it. You said they was young, and yes, they was. And there's nothing wrong with being young. There's no sin with being young. But when I looked at some of those players on the England team, they hadn't grown into their bodies yet, some of them. And whereas they felt that they faced a Welsh team that was at home and had the crowd behind them, some of the players just didn't look good enough. And the reason why I say that is because every time I saw a scrum, the Brits couldn't even stand up and push back.
Well, that's purely superior technique. I mean,
that's what it was it? Oh, okay.
Absolutely,
okay.
Because Adam Jones is probably one of the greatest tight head props who have ever played the game. And though it looks to the outsider as though it's just a case of, you know, big muscly men getting down and shoving hard and pushing as hard as they can.
Massive technique involved in a tight head prop.
There's an enormous amount of technique required to be a tight head prop. You know, which is why it is such a specialist position. On
but excuse me, though, Rich, but as far as I knew, that when you had a scrub, you had more than one player in it. And as far as I could see, the referee was getting frustrated because the England team, they couldn't even hold, they couldn't even set properly at the scrum, and they didn't have no shove.
No, but because it was...
And I'm sorry, you might talk about the one player, but it took all of the players in the scrum to be able to push, and not one of them could.
Well, the thing is that, you know, when you look at the front row, I mean, first of all, I mean, you've got Adam, as I said, Adam Jones, absolute world-class prop, one of the, you know, somebody who has been there and done it before so many times with Wales, done, I think, 2 or 3 Lions tours, and, you know, and he knows how to scrummage. I mean, likewise, Gethin Jenkins. And, you know, you've also got to look, when you look at the Welsh front row, you know, one of the best and biggest surprise packages of the whole tournament has been Richie Hibbert.
But you're confusing me, Rich, because you're the one that said that it was all done and dusted, that England was going to do it easy.
No, I didn't.
No, he didn't. No, he said Wales were going to edge it, but not by 7 points.
I said Wales would win by 5 points.
Yeah, by 5 points, yeah.
And the reason I said that is because I said they would win the front row battle, and they would also win the back row battle as well. They would get more ball in the loose because of having 2 specialist open side flankers.
So that means that my addition skills of 7 points was obviously I was mistaken then, and Wales got a few more then, obviously.
Well,
in fact, they managed to get a couple of tries.
The thing is, I thought they would win. I didn't anticipate, and I don't think anybody did
that it was going to be a scoreline like that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, if you've got no shame, you're not going to just remember your seats there warming up for me when I come down.
And you're welcome anytime.
You're welcome anytime, mate. Anytime you like.
Anyway, Dom, I'll listen to the rest of the show. I'd like to hear what they're going to say about Tottenham, because it was very funny. The reason why I'm mentioning Tottenham just a bit early is because 2 weeks ago, Gareth Bale was seen at the Man United ground. And from what I understand, the owner of Tottenham has actually offered him 150 grand a week now to keep him to stay.
120.
Well, no, that's what I've heard. I don't know for definite.
Well, apparently there was an article in the paper last week, and it said that a bid of 70 million.
Whatever it was, they've offered him some money.
Gentlemen, I have to come in here, Steve. I'm sorry, because we are going to address that in the football part of the show. Right. We must get on with the rugby, if that's okay. But thanks very much for your contribution, Steve. Cheers.
Bye.
So coming back, I mean, and looking at that game, as we predicted, I mean, the front row, managed to secure so much good ball. They forced England into conceding so many penalties, and the Welsh back row were
phenomenal. I mean, as a unit, I mean, Tipuric, Faletau and Warburton, again, a fantastic game.
And also,
just unbelievable
and also
skill.
The back three as well. I mean, the full back and both wings. I mean, I think Lee Halfpenny had just the most amazing.
The back three as well was superb in the line as well, absolutely. Jamie Roberts had a stormer. Mike Phillips as well, his best game in a Welsh jersey now for at least 12 months as well.
I thought Mike Phillips played very
Just bear with us a second, Rich. We've got a caller on the line. Sorry. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Good evening. Well, good evening, gentlemen. Well, unlike the previous call, I'm going to be short and sweet. It's Swansea Jack on the Costa Blanca.
How you doing?
Short and sweet. All right, I'm going to use the Iaith Never, the language of heaven, right, which is Welsh, obviously. So I'm just going to sum it up in 3 words: Cymru am byth, which in the language of heaven means Wales forever. Good evening, gentlemen.
Fantastic.
I enjoy the show.
Great stuff.
That's very short and sweet and succinct, unlike the previous call. Goodbye.
Many thanks for your call there. Great stuff. Some typical Welsh pride of rugby fans, which we've known for down the years, and what was obviously in Millennium Stadium and in the televisions around the world, supporting Wales as well.
Well, I mean, Wales is the spiritual home of rugby in Great Britain, and you only have to go to Wales to really appreciate that. And even a small little town will have a number of rugby teams that they'll put out every weekend, and it's very, very similar to New Zealand in that respect. And I think that's what people, I mean, certainly all my relatives down under, they absolutely love Wales. I mean, even though they support Australia, but their next team is Wales, and they love the passion that the Welsh have for rugby.
But Rich, just going back to that Welsh performance, and I mean, for me, what really made that performance was the return to form of some of their key experienced players. Like I've already said, number 9, Mike Phillips. Jamie Roberts, I thought, had an outstanding game. He crossed the game line at will. His defensive qualities were unbelievable. The front three were absolutely phenomenal, and that provided the platform for the backs to attack the way that they did. But Tipuric as well, and you've spoken about him quite often throughout the Six Nations. This guy's an unbelievable player with such great flair. He links so incredibly well with the backs as well. What a storming game he had.
Enormous upper body strength and arm strength, and you only have to see him, and he's so similar in his build to Pocock and Richie McCaw, and to me, I mean, he is a shoo-in for the Lions.
And what about the finishing of Alex Cuthbert? In typical winger fashion, that is how a winger should score his tries.
Well, I mean, we'll probably be talking about this, but when you look at both the Wales wingers, they are the shoo-ins for the Lions. I mean, exceptional talents. George North, wonderful footballer.
Brilliant stuff. Listen, we're going to be talking about. I've asked you to give me a team or a squad for the Lions. I've also done my starting 15.
But also, I think a special mention should go for Alan Wynne-Jones, who only recently came back from injury. And
sure, quality player.
And we were talking about on Friday that one area of dominance that England might enjoy is at the line-out.
And they didn't.
He was sensational.
Fantastic
Absolutely
stuff,
sensational.
The other performance of the weekend for me was also Italy's performance against Rome. We saw a very, very good performance in the opening game against France by Italy. 70,000, 80,000 people in the Olympic Stadium. Who would have thought that? Lazio and Roma play in that stadium, and only 30 to 35,000 turn up. 70 to 80,000 turned up for this clash against Ireland, and it was a tremendous performance. I don't know whether you saw that. I watched that, and I thought it was a massively impressive performance by Italy, and yet again by Sergio Parisi, who for me at this stage is the best number number 8 in world rugby.
Without a doubt, Dominic. I mean, you know, not only does he just give such huge momentum to the team with ball in hand, but you know, his handling is so skillful, and some of the offloads are just perfection. I mean, and you know, you look at him, and you know, he is in every single way, you know, the perfect All Black footballer. I mean, you could put him into you could put him into the All Blacks at number 8, and he would fit in seamlessly. I mean, he's a fantastic player.
I bet Warren Gatlin wishes that he had an option to select him for the British Lions. Stu, I think you want to add something to that.
I'm not a big rugby fan, but I did watch that actually, the Wales game, and the passion of the crowd and the atmosphere was electric, absolutely electric. I mean, they were just gung ho, the Italians. It was a really great thing to watch, great game to watch.
I mean, and also, I mean, so many interesting pointers as well for the Lions as well. I think had some very key, I think, battles were won on the pitch, which will have a major bearing on Gatlin's decision, I think.
I would have thought so, especially considering who he was coaching before he took over the Lions job. France ending up with a wooden spoon. Who would have thought that at the beginning of the Six Nations?
No one.
Nobody would have thought that, especially after winning all 4 of their autumn internationals as convincingly as they did. Nobody would have thought that. Only one victory, which came against the Scots on Saturday night in France. Slightly better performance by the French at times. Some great flair in the second half. But Philippe Saint-André, I don't know whether he's going to manage to hold on to his job after that.
Well, I mean, tactically, they just seem a mess. They just have no sort of, I don't know, sort of unified sense of purpose in what they're meant to be doing on the rugby field. And I think there's confusion from Saint-André as to how the team should play. I think there's confusion as to the personnel, the best personnel, you know, for each of the various positions. And it is quite incredible how, you know, well, how a team such as France can have looked so imperious in the autumn internationals and then so poor in the Six Nations. But you know, it's a reverse of what's happened to Wales, because Wales were absolutely abject in the autumn internationals and phenomenal in the Six Nations.
Before we move on to your Lions and my Lions selection from what we've seen over the last several weeks, who's going to be your player of the Six Nations, Rich?
Oh, that's really, really difficult, because I think there were, you know, I think one person who did stand out despite the the very heavy defeat was Chris Robshaw on Saturday, and I think he has been a fantastic player. But I think you'd probably have to look at somebody like Halfpenny.
I was going to say, Lee Halfpenny. For me, it's a tough decision between Sergio Parisi, who I think won it in 2011, or possibly even last year, actually, the player of the tournament. So for me, it's going to be either Sergio Parisi or Lee Halfpenny, but I'm tempted to edge towards Parisi because of the fact he comes from Italy. They aren't the strongest side in the tournament, but yet his performance towered above everybody else's for me.
Well, I mean, you only have to look at the difference in the performances of the Italian team with and without him.
Absolutely, yeah, of course, because against Scotland he didn't feature, did he?
No,
yeah.
And nor in the other game as well. I think against it was.
I think he only served a one-match ban.
It was a two-match ban he had. Or was it one match? Was it?
It was one match. Yeah, he might very well have been injured in the other. No, it was just the one. I think he missed the Scots game against Scotland. Yeah,
and certainly without him, I mean, Italy just seemed really bereft of not just ideas but confidence as well.
Six Nations finishes. Now we have the Lions to look forward to. I mean, this is a marvellous occasion for any international rugby player from the British Isles. It is the ultimate accolade for them to be selected on a Lions tour against Australia this year. Down under, the conditions are going to be perfect for running rugby, attacking rugby. The grounds are going to be nice and solid for good scrummaging as well. I asked you to put together a team or a squad, if you like, from what you've seen over the Six Nations. I put together, if, for example, next week we have to pick our starting 15 for the Lions. I've done my 15 for that, but I'd be interested, should we start with the front row?
Okay. Well, I don't think you can look any further than Adam Jones, to be honest. Then I'd go Richie Hibbard. And then I might take a trip to France and try and coax Andrew Sheridan out of international retirement, and he would readily come back to the Lions.
Cool, that's a very, very brave decision. Goodness me. I mean, Andrew Sheridan, he's been out of the international wilderness now for the best part of 12 months, and you'd be tempted to bring him out.
Well, his form in France is very, very good. I mean, he is probably the most powerful scrummager in world rugby. I mean, his upper body strength is absolutely immense, and certainly, I mean, England could have done with him on Saturday afternoon. He would have cemented the scrum, and I think, Adam Jones would have found himself with a very different proposition facing him than the one he did, But I think also, I mean, when you look at the hookers, I mean, Richie Hibbard has been sensational.
Has been brilliant.
He's improved his line in throwing. And, I'd probably say, as a replacement, Tom Youngs.
Okay, well, I've gone for Gethin Jenkins. I've gone for Rory Best, the Irish hooker in there, a bit more experience, and Adam Jones. Hibbard could be an option as well for me in the middle there, because then you've got a solid unit, a national front row, international front row, which are used to playing with each other.
Absolutely. And, the thing is, I mean, there is a lot of depth, and one area that Australia have been weak in, especially the last sort of 10 years or so, is in their front row. And, you only have to go back, I think it was to the 2003 World Cup, and, there was one thing that, that their scrum was continually collapsing, and a lot of people criticised the referee for not really penalising them for it. So it has been an issue ever since.
We've got a caller on the line. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Sorry, before you go off the rugby and go out to St Kilts, can you please give your opinions on what's going to happen with the World Cup coming and England and all the home nation teams, please? Because I'll be listening to that.
Okay, if we've got some time, we certainly will do that, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers. Second row.
Second row. Well, I'm going to go for a bit of a... I think Alan Wynne-Jones, really, has got to have one of the berths with... And I think... The other one I'd give to Joe Launchbury because of his athleticism in the loose. He had the highest tackle count of any second rower in the tournament. And he's just a superb athlete. And but I would also look, if Paul O'Connell is back from injury, again, him and Jim Hamilton are two others that I would pencil in. So...
Yeah, I've got Hamilton on my list, and I've actually also got Tom Croft playing out of position at number 4, just because of his line-out skills, because I don't actually have a place for him in my loose forward trio, but it certainly is a position that he's capable of playing, and of course Alvin Jones as well for me, absolutely.
Yeah, I just think Joe Launchbury is just such a talented footballer, and great handling skills, he's very good in the line-out, very good in the loose, and I'm not the only person who has identified him as a major young talent, and I think that Gatlin likes the look of him. I think he'll definitely go.
Your loose forward trio. Bearing in mind, I don't believe David Pocock will be featuring for Australia in the British Lions. He's out injured, I think, in the second round of the Super 15 rugby. That's going to be a big loss for Australia.
But they've got a very good replacement for him, though. I think
they've got plenty of good loose forwards knocking around down under in Australia. But this is key for the amount of ball that you can win, turnover ball especially.
Yeah, well, as I said, I mean, to me, one of the most important positions in international rugby at the moment has got to be your open side flanker, and I wouldn't look any further than Tipuric. I mean, he's a natural number 7, had an absolutely fantastic Six Nations, and I mentioned this when he came on for the second half in the Ireland game. I thought it made such a huge difference, and then you only had to see what he was able to do in the loose, and the way that he put Cuthbert through for the first try was, I thought, sensational, absolutely sensational back row play.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly gone with Tipuric myself. Absolutely, his performance throughout the Six Nations has been superb. I've also gone with Sam Warburton as well at number 7 there. And the reason why I've gone for Warburton is simply on the basis of his form in the last 2 matches. I wouldn't have had him in there had we have had this discussion a couple of weeks ago.
Well, I mean, he is my other number 7 in the squad. I mean, if I was to look at the blind side, I'd go Chris Robshaw. I mean, I
suppose he's been one of the better performers, isn't he?
He's to my mind, he's more of a blindsider than an open side flanker. And the other player I'd look at is Kelly Brown of Scotland. I think
he's had a decent Six Nations, yeah. And your number 8.
Well, he didn't feature for the last 4 games, but I think that he has been instrumental in some of England's best performances over the last 12 months, and it's Ben Morgan.
Okay, all right, interesting.
And if not, Beattie, the Scottish player. Is it James Beattie?
James Beattie used to play for Southampton.
That's right. Beattie, what's his name? Can't remember his first name. He is a little bit error prone, and And so my other pick would be Faletau.
Well, I've gone with him at number 8. In fact,
But
I've gone
the
with
thing is, we haven't seen Faletau hasn't been playing his best rugby.
I thought he had a storming game on the weekend.
He did have a good game on Saturday, but his form in the other matches, I think he's been compensated for by the strength of his flankers.
I'd just be tempted.
He's a marvellous player, Faletau, but I just don't think we've seen the best of him this year.
I'd just be tempted to keep that loose forward trio together. And again, like I've possibly with the front row, I'm looking at an all Welsh attack when it comes to the loose forward trio.
The thing is, I think with your blind side, you need someone who's going to have a high tackle count. Rob Shaw has got the highest tackle count of any back row player. He's also got with your blindside flanker, you need someone to make those breaks on the blind side. He also has recorded more meters gained than any other back row player. So I mean, despite the defeat on Saturday, I think it would be foolish to overlook Rob Shaw's talents as a player.
Number 9, your scrum half position.
Mike Phillips. Shoeing.
Mike Phillips, kicking game, all-round game. I mean, he was fantastic on the weekend.
I was impressed with Greg Laidlaw as well.
He can play number 10 as well. So for me, I'm sure that we'll see him in the squad because of his flexibility there. But hands down, Mike Phillips for me in all departments. Your number 10. Now, this could be interesting because for me, one of the best number 10s wasn't featuring in Johnny Sexton. I've got him as my starter, despite the fact he didn't feature in the Six Nations. Otherwise, you're looking at Owen Farrell for me.
Well, those are exactly the two I've got. I've got Farrell and then Sexton if he's fit.
I just think Sexton with his all-round attacking play down under where it's going to be a little bit drier, especially with the sort of backs he's going to have to work with. It might be a better option.
He just offers so much more in attack, Dominic, and this is one of the criticisms of young Farrell that he doesn't really offer very much other than a good boot and a good pass. He's never scored for England. He hardly ever makes a break, and. Yeah, Sexton offers much more.
I'm going to leave the centre combinations till last, if I may. I'm going to work on the back three, the two wingers and your fullback. Again, I've gone with the Welsh combination of Lee Halfpenny, Alex Cuthbert and George North. Pace, power, skill, and tremendous amount of ability. And again, three guys from deep that know each other's game inside out.
Well, I've gone Halfpenny and George North. And my other winger is Tim Visser.
Tim Visser, okay, good. He had a great game against the French.
He's played very, very well.
Absolutely, a big, strong lad as well. Good pace,
strong, very quick, very good finisher. A little bit quicker than Cuthbert, and
good choice there. Absolutely, I can see him squeezing in a starting berth. Definitely.
The thing is, I think it's important to have a good balance of all the four nations in the Lions, and when we've had successful tours in the past, it's because there's been that good balance.
Sure.
You don't want any one team to dominate, really.
Okay, and centre combination, I mean, this is probably going to cause a lot of debate. For me, it was a pretty
Number
easy
12,
selection.
Inside, well, it's got to be Dr. Jamie Roberts, as he will be by the time the Lions tour.
He will indeed, won't he? Yeah.
Taking his medical exams.
Yeah.
I think he's in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, I've gone with Jamie Roberts, absolutely. Perfect. I can't see anybody more than that.
And Tuilagi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Spot on. I mean, I just can't. I think will go, but whether he'll start remains to be seen. But Bradley Barrett doesn't offer anything other than tremendous defensive qualities for me.
Well, I think that's really what Wales exposed on the weekend was the lack of attacking flair in the England team. And you'd have to say that a lot of their victories, with the exception of the opening day win against Scotland, has been built on formidable defence. But, you only have to look at how few tries were scored to realise that something has to be addressed, something has to be sorted out. And I think that Barrett, as inspirational as he is in the tackle, just doesn't offer enough, Dominic.
Well, that's our Lions selection for the forthcoming tour to Australia in
I can't wait.
6 to 8 weeks.
I just love the Lions tours. I mean, it's just such an event.
Amazing time, yeah. And looking forward to seeing Warren Gatlin's selection as well. The time is going very quickly.
Who's your captain?
My captain, goodness me. I didn't pick Rob Shaw. I've got to probably look at Sam Warburton.
Really?
Yeah. I've got to look at him. His form was great when he was captain of Wales. The reason why he lost his form was purely down to injury. And he wasn't back to full fitness.
The thing is, if you were to choose between him and Tipperidge for your open side, it's got to be Tipperidge. And Warburton I mean, he's a great player, but he doesn't strike me as a natural blindside flanker.
Well, they performed pretty well for me on the weekend.
Yeah, because he won a lot of ball.
My captain, actually, Adam Jones. There you go.
Adam Jones.
That's my captain.
Don't know whether I think Gethin Jenkins would probably. He's a bit of a quiet fellow, Adam Jones.
That's my.
I'd go maybe Alan Wynne Jones in the second row, maybe.
That's a possibility too. Yeah, mind you, I picked so many Welshmen that my captain would be Welsh. There's no question
I think
about it.
Gatland's going to pick a lot of Welshmen because they, are the best players and deserve to go, Dom.
Before we go to a commercial break, very, very quickly, Rich, we had a caller calling up to Steve that was there, just asking what, with the World Cup not too long to go before the World Cup, where the home nations really sit at the moment and where you think they'll be when that time comes.
Home nations, well, you've got to say that probably Wales are third best in the world at the moment. Then England are probably fifth best.
And, I mean, certainly you can see, despite the loss, you can see progress from the England side coming up over the next couple of years, without a doubt.
Oh, very, very much so, Dominic. I mean, I think for any English rugby fan, there's a lot to be cheered about. So there's some great talent coming through. And, we talk about, the imminent selection of Freddie Burns, but let's not forget that the one talent that everyone is really waiting for is young George Ford of Leicester.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, into IRB Young Player of the Year last year. His form for Leicester has been absolutely sensational, and and he really is the natural number 10 that we're waiting for.
I mean, you've got to think that the home nations.
He'll go to the tour to Argentina in the summer, definitely, and and I think we could well see him in the autumn internationals making his debut.
England, Wales, Rugby World Cup in the Northern Hemisphere. South Africa don't play very well in the wet, so we know they're going to struggle. New Zealand can, because they've got very similar conditions where they come from. Only one Rugby World Cup has been won by a non-Southern Hemisphere, well, a side other than Australia, New Zealand or South Africa, and that was England in 2003. Do you think it's about time now this might happen now, considering they're going to be playing at home?
I'd love Wales to win the World Cup, Dom. I really would. I think, just the passion and of the Welsh rugby fans, and just the fact that it is the national game of rugby and the huge proud tradition of Welsh rugby.
Amazing, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say that. For me, it's my second favourite team. I always support them. The Welsh. Obviously, the Springboks come first, and afterwards it's the Welsh, and especially the sort of rugby that they play. But we absolutely have to now go for a commercial break. Thanks for your contribution on that, Rich. Very, very interesting.
The Monday Night Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth.
Join me and my panel, Richard Tilsley and Stuart Joseph, every Monday for the new edition of the Monday Night Sports Bar, live from the Talk Radio Europe studios from 7 till 8 p.m.
The Monday Night Sports Bar.
You just never know who might drop in. See you in both of them. A warm welcome to the Sports Bar. David Campese, thanks for joining me this afternoon. Bjorn Borg, thanks very much for talking to me. Joining me live, he's Gary Player.
Dom, nice to be able to speak to all three of you today.
These guys have been waiting for this with bated breath, I can assure you, for the last couple of weeks.
The Monday Night Sports Bar with Dom Aldworth.
Well, welcome back to the last part of the show. Just a bit of tennis news to bring you. Rafael Nadal added another triumphant chapter to his remarkable comeback story by defeating Juan Martín del Potro in the BNP Paribas Open final at Indian Wells. It was his third title of the year since his comeback. He's been to 4 straight finals. Great stuff there from Rafael Nadal. He's now got a record of 17-1 since his return from injury. He defeated del Potro in 3 sets, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4, and that was his 22nd Masters Series title. Tremendous comeback there from Rafael Nadal. He's looking almost unbeatable at this stage. Novak Djokovic defeated in the semi-finals. That's a 22-match unbeaten run by del Potro there. That was ended. And then on the ladies' draw, Maria Sharapova won the Indian Wells title for the ladies, defeating Karolina Wozniacki quite easily, 6-2, 6-2. The ATP Tour Roadshow now moves on. It's another Masters Series event in Miami this week. Novak Djokovic is going for a 3rd consecutive title. He's already won there on 3 occasions. Andy Murray needs to return to form. He was the winner there in 2009. Agnieszka Radwanska, the number 3 seed from Poland, is the defending champion. But Serena Williams is a 5 times winner there. She returns to action as well. Just very briefly as well, the Formula 1 season began down under at the Australian Grand Prix, and Kimi Raikkonen was the winner there. It's the first time, I think, since Fittipaldi that a team with Lotus has actually won a Formula 1 Grand Prix. Tremendous stuff there from Kimi Raikkonen. He's one of the dark horses for the title. title this year as well. Good showing there from Ferrari, and Fernando Alonso coming in second. Sebastian Vettel starting from pole, coming home in third there. Lewis Hamilton in fifth. Felipe Massa coming in there in fourth. He's been in some good form towards the end of last season, at the beginning of this. Mark Webber, Adrian Sutil, Paul di Resta, Jenson Button, Romain Grosjean. Those are your top 10. The Formula One season continues this weekend at Sepang and the Malaysian Grand Prix. Stuart Joseph, it's now time for football. Tottenham Hotspur losing yet again. Are they still a top 4 club, mate?
They're still a top 4. They've just had a long, difficult period. They've had some hard games. They went to West Ham and beaten 3-2 in the last minute. Then they had... They played against Inter Milan, who we beat 3-0, beat Arsenal 2-1, and we went to Liverpool, played ever so well last week, got beat 3-2. Inter Milan during the week was a blip. We lost 4-1, but we got through to the next stage. And Fulham was a great disappointment. But I think the lads were really, really tired. I couldn't understand the setup or the lineup that we put out. It must have been because some of the players were tired, because we had some players on the substitute bench that I should have played. And against Fulham, I think they should have been much more... defensive in the midfield, which we didn't do. We put 2 players up front. So I didn't agree with the formation, but having said that, we got beat by a Fulham side that was very, very disappointing.
So hold on, Stu, you're third in the table. And
fourth now.
Fourth now, you were third. And you put 2 strikers up front, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sorry, but a top 5 or 6 team... a team that's in the top 4, 5 or 6, playing a team that's in the bottom 7, should not have to resort to playing a lone striker up front and packing the midfield.
It's called tactics. Fulham are 10th, and if you watch Fulham...
Well, they are now.
They've got everyone in that defence is about 7'5". They are so tall, so massive. You need to control midfield, I think, to win that game. And if the players are tired, I would have had 5 in midfield. It's no disgrace.
But you look toothless up front.
We looked terrible up front. Terrible. Shocking. Adebayor was terrible last night. Yes, and Bale in the first half wasn't even noticed.
Could you not also say it's something to do with the fact Gareth Bale did not feature in the Inter Milan game due to suspension? He had one of his worst games of the season against Fulham. Does that not suggest that... And it's not only us that are winding you up about this, but all the pundits are saying, and fans are saying, that this is a one-man team, and yet again the results suggest that this could very well be the case.
Yeah, well, OK, this time I'm a biased Spurs supporter. I don't think they're a one-man team. I honestly think Bale has done fantastic and scored goals. I think there's other players there to score goals, but...
Where do you think that Spurs would be in the table if, say, Bale had already gone to Real Madrid?
Hard to say. If we hadn't scored these goals that we scored recently, you'd probably say we're mid-table, but we're a lot better than that.
OK, well, put it this way. Had Bale still been there, but played like he did on the weekend... where you would still you're still at least 2 top class signings away from being consistently a top 4 team.
But you can't have that Gareth Bale playing brilliantly every single week. Messi doesn't do it every week, and nor does Ronaldo.
But I tell you what, I found concerning if I was a Spurs.
Messi scored in 18 consecutive games.
It's true.
Was how easily Fulham took you apart on the break.
So they took us apart, but then defensively, I thought we were poor. I thought the formation on the weekend was very bad.
Well, when they scored the goal,
Oh, terrible. They cut us to pieces.
They absolutely sliced through.
Cut us to pieces. Yeah, but you had a fullback that was out of place. It was very bad defensively. It was a bad performance, Richard. It was just a bad day. And I said before, if you're going to lose a game, I'd rather lose it now. 2-week break with the internationals, come back stronger.
When you bear in mind what happened to Spurs last season, that has got to be playing on the players' mind.
I'm playing on everyone's mind, certainly mine.
This is now the business end of the season, isn't it? It's a run-in. And
the running's very difficult as well. It's not an easy run-in.
We've got a caller on the line, and we're going to bring the caller in. Good evening, you're live on Talk Radio Europe.
Stuart, I love your optimism.
Are you...
Another Spurs supporter. Steve, listen, we've got to be brave here. We've lost the game. It's not the end of the world. We're still ahead. Even if Arsenal win their game in hand, we're still a point in front. Then we've just got to keep winning games. And we will.
You know what it is? They played yesterday like headless chicken.
They were tired, Steve. The whole team was playing terrible.
But they're professionals. You know what annoys me with this tired? They play 90 minutes football. It's not a full day's graft. You get athletes that go and run a 1,500 metres and a 5,000 metres.
I agree. I'm not making excuses for them.
Yeah, but you are making excuses.
No, I understand. I am, unfortunately, a mad Spurs supporter, and they do it to us every year. That's why a lot of Spurs supporters suffer with heart failure.
Steve, don't be like that. At the moment, we're still in 4th place, and we hold Arsenal off. It depends what happens from here. We've just got to wait and see how the rest of the season pans out. Arsenal got some very hard games. Don't write Tottenham off at the moment. It's just a blip. It's only a blip.
I would never write them off. We've got 13 days rest.
Correct.
Then we got Swansea away.
Which is a hard game, but Arsenal went there 1-2-0 and they're a little bit fortunate as well, so we can go there and get 3
I wouldn't
points.
say Arsenal were fortunate. I thought they were good for them.
We've got Vile at home.
And we've got Everton. We've got Everton
at home.
Everton at home. Chelsea away. We can take Chelsea. Manchester City at home. Not worried about that. Wigan away. Difficult game. Southampton home. Stoke away. And we've got Sunderland at home. It's not a hard running.
Yeah, but you say that a lot of them will be fighting for prevention to relegation.
Yeah, but it's the same with the Arsenal, Steve. They've also got hard games against QPR. You know, they've also got to play Fulham. They've also got some hard games. And Chelsea as well. Manchester United away, Everton at home. I mean, these are all hard games. They've got to go to Liverpool.
Stuart, my darling, I love you to pieces.
I tell you, this is fantastic. We've got an optimistic Spurs fan and we've got a realistic Spurs fan, Stephen.
Well, listen, they've done it to us so many times.
No, not this year, Steve. This is we'll get by. Honestly, we've got a great manager. He's a new boy. Whatever's happened before is not the
Stuart. Stuart and Steve, are either of you aware of the baseball coach called Yogi Berra? Okay, because he had an expression and he said, "This is deja vu all over again."
No, I don't believe it.
I'll tell you something.
And it
I
is.
think our name is on the Europa Cup.
Yeah, but I want Champions League next year desperately.
Yeah, we'll get that. Hopefully, we will get it. But once we've beaten, we'll win the Europa Cup definitely.
Okay, that's good.
Right? I mean, when you think against Lyon, the last minute we equalised, we're through. Against Inter Milan. He does nothing the whole blooming game, and he scores the most important goal he'll ever score for us.
I think my blood pressure was about 180 over 190 at the end of that.
Really?
Game.
You're lucky. I'll tell you what, I was sitting there, I was shaking. I was absolutely shaking.
Steve, were you in favour of the appointment of AVB at the beginning of the season?
I've got to be honest with you, no, I wasn't. But Stuart has convinced me. I do think what the mistakes he made at Chelsea, he's rectified them at Tottenham. He's given them the belief that they can go ahead and win things.
I agree.
And listen, it's his first season with us. I think he's got the team believing in that they can do anything. And when you think about it, it's just 11 players against 11 players.
But, I mean, the thing is, obviously he has the support of Daniel Levy. But it surprised me that in the transfer window that Levy didn't back him with funds to buy another striker. Because I think one thing, I know he got that goal for you against Inter Milan last week, but Adebayor just hasn't done it for Spurs.
I think Daniel Levy did try to get us a couple of players, but it was very difficult.
Well, he tried to get that Brazilian.
Yeah, but we've been after him for about 18 months, and he's still.
Well, if we get into the Champions League,
we'll draw better players. We'll draw better players once.
Yes. Because that's what they want to play. They want to play in a league like that.
Steve, stay positive. Stay positive.
All right, Stuart, I love you to pieces, and I always go with you.
Thank you.
Please don't let me down.
Stephen, many thanks for your call.
Bye.
Cheers now. I know we've had another caller trying to ring through. Sorry, we've only got a couple of minutes left until the news at the top of the hour. We've got plenty to get through. Just tell us what else went on in the Premier League over the weekend, if you may, Stu.
Well, just briefly, Everton had a tremendous win against Manchester City 2-0. Richard, if you saw that was a tremendous performance.
It was. I
Everton
did watch that,
just absolutely magnificent. They were played for the manager. Nothing else to say. The best game of the weekend, I thought, was Aston Villa and QPR.
But Man City seem to have given up, don't they?
They've lost heart. They've lost heart, and some of their players have a bad game. The whole team falls apart, and I think they did the weekend. Aston Villa and QPR was a cracking game. Two teams fighting to stay out. QPR should have been home and dry by half-time, but if you don't take
Guzan, those saves of Guzan
man
were
of the
fantastic,
match. Man of the match. He was superb. Southampton, as Steve told us, gave Liverpool a drubbing, 3-1, and believe me, Southampton won comfortably. Take Liverpool out of Anfield, they're a different team. Stoke and West Brom bored me to tears, if you saw that. I can't watch much more of Stoke.
I can't watch any more of Stoke, I'll tell you, and I know
even their supporters are getting fed up with it, to be honest with you. Arsenal went to Swansea and won 2-0. You think they played well? I saw it. Well, they did play well in midfield, but Swansea could have had a couple of goals, and Michu, if he was on form, would have scored a couple of goals. United played badly again, beat Reading 1-0. Incredible. This is why they're champions. They win games 1-0. Sunderland Norwich was an interesting game because Norwich went down to 10 men very early when the goalie went off, and Sunderland still struggled to get a draw. So I was surprised about that. Tottenham Fulham, we've discussed. Chelsea and West Ham. Chelsea very comfortable. West Ham needs to look after over their shoulder. They're in 14th and they're getting too near the relegation zone. And Wigan and Newcastle, God, we talked about Wigan. The last weeks they've been playing fabulous football, and they did against Newcastle. Got a late winner, a little bit disputed, but never mind, a late winner. And, well, they've got a semi-final of the FA Cup coming up. Having a marvellous time, Wigan. Terrific. Love their football.
Around Europe as well, PSG were held by St Etienne. AC Milan are hot on the heels of Napoli. Great win by Napoli.
Did you see who scored the 2 goals for Milan?
For Balotelli yet again. Lionel Messi scoring his 18th consecutive league match. But not great news for Malaga. Serious European hangover for them on the weekend.
Well, listen, Malaga have got a very small squad and they're tired. It's simple as that. We talk about Spurs. For them, it's even more difficult. They've done tremendously well. I don't think you can be critical of them. And they've got a very hard run in because a couple of their games have got to go to Barcelona. They've got Real Madrid also away. I think they've lost 4th place now. I hope I'm wrong because they've been just magnificent, and they've got a great quarter-final coming up against Borussia Dortmund, which is going to be another great evening. I'm very sorry for them because they really are finding it hard now and very tiring.
Great win there, as expected by Barcelona and Real Madrid as well. Ronaldo again in sparkling form. Messi, a brace of goals for him. 18 consecutive league games, as I mentioned, that he scored. In France, PSG were held by St Etienne 2 goals apiece, but not too much damage done there because Lyon lost to Bastita, and Marseille as well were held. And I'm not going to pronounce this. This is you, Ajaccio. Come on, you're the French speaker here.
Where is it?
How did you say that?
Come on, you're French. Come on, you come up with all these French words. Ajaccio.
This one. How do you spell it? Ajaccio?
Just come up with a French word for goodness sake.
Ajaccio.
No, to say with French, like, you know.
It's amazing in the French league. You're just saying. I mean, nobody won out the top 7. Paris Saint-Germain, St Etienne, Marseille, Montpellier all drew. Lyon lost, Nice lost, Lille lost. I mean, you know, everyone's trying to get in the top 6 and they're dropping points all over the place.
2 minutes to go, guys. No league action on the agenda throughout Europe over the next 10 days or so because it's World Cup qualifiers.
Yes, but we've got a lot of great internationals the weekend. I'm sure we'll discuss them on Friday. We've got San Marino, England, on Friday, and Montenegro, which is such an important game because they're ahead of us at the moment. It's going to be very interesting what team we put out, and I'm looking forward to
Does it matter?
Well,
does it matter what?
The first game doesn't really matter.
We could turn out and probably still beat San Marino.
San Marino, forget about. Montenegro's going to be a hard game. They've had some really good results so far, and we need to be really at the top of our form.
And South American group as well. There's South American action as well. No, you haven't done any South American.
No, South Africa.
Everything about football.
Friday, we'll have that on Friday evening.
Yeah. So, I mean, what was your favourite thing on the weekend, though, Rich? I mean, mine obviously the Formula One. I didn't get to watch it. It was a little bit too early in the morning for me. Saw the highlights. It must have been the Welsh victory for me.
Well, absolutely.
And the fact that Spurs lost.
And just the performance of Wales. It was just. I thought the quality of the rugby they played was just sensational.
And your second favourite, the lack of performance of Spurs against?
No. His second favourite was Wolves beating Bristol City.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was
we forgot to mention that.
Big match.
I mean, that should have been top of the agenda.
Did you see the own goal?
No.
One of the most comical own goals you will ever see. It was just priceless.
Yeah, but it's 3 points. We should have started the show with that. That should have been the headline of the show. Wolverhampton winning.
Well, Dominic, I mean, I'm in such a despondent state about my football
They're
club.
Still second from bottom. They need to win games desperately.
We've got to win games. I mean, the only thing is very tight, and one win will, I think,
take you straight up
take us out. But it's really sad what's happened to the team.
That championship is worth watching. Sorry, Richard, it means to interrupt. The championship is really, really exciting at the top.
Well, you've got about 10 seconds. Tell us the league table.
Cardiff has 75 points and going a little bit clear. Hull 68, Watford 66, Crystal Palace 65. Forest unbeaten in 5 games now. Unbelievable. Absolutely playing. The new manager, Billy Davis, is just making them win games and games and games.
That's the top of the hour, gentlemen.
Who was at Derby?
Yes, correct.
Top of the hour. Thank you very much, as usual, for giving your time. And thanks to all the callers. Sorry we couldn't take all of your calls. Have a great sporting week.
Talk Radio Europe on the hour. Live international news from Sky.
7. Representatives of some of Britain's largest newspaper publishing groups say they need time to study the cross-party proposals for a new press regulator. They say the early drafts contain several deeply contentious issues which haven't been resolved yet within the industry. But campaigners for press reform have backed the plans to establish an independent regulator. Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg is urging newspapers to support them too.
I very much hope the newspaper groups will now see the logic of this incentive and get behind these reforms. And second, an entrenchment clause to prevent future governments from chopping and changing the Royal Charter on a whim.
Thousands of British expats with Cypriot bank accounts have had their pension payments frozen by the government. A Treasury spokesman says it's to ensure that they receive the full amounts ahead of a proposed bank deposit tax in the country. The Foreign Office is investigating reports that 2 Britons have been shot while on holiday in Barbados. The pair, believed to be a man in his 70s and a woman in her 50s, were attacked in Bridgetown. Schools across the country are facing a summer of disruption after teachers in England and Wales announced a series of strikes. The walkouts over pay, pensions and workload are due to begin in the northwest of England in June. Football and Rio Ferdinand has withdrawn from the England squad ahead of the World Cup qualifiers with San Marino and Montenegro. His call-up after a period of exile made the headlines last week, but the veteran defender has pulled out because of concerns over his training programme. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is with the England squad and says it's a blow to lose him.
The experience that he would bring and the quality that would have been really good for us, but obviously that is disappointing, but the players that will come in and the players that we've got in the squad are more than capable to do the role and fill in with good quality and good experience. So, I'm sure we'll be OK.
And Britain is bracing itself for more cold weather tonight. Scotland and the north of England are being told to brace themselves for snow. That's the latest. I'm Chris.
The international news live on the hour from Sky in association with Jyske Bank Gibraltar. For all your investments and banking needs, go online to jyskebank.gi, jyskebank.gi, or visit us at 76 Main Street, Gibraltar. Jyske Bank, for all your investment and banking needs.
TRE. Making the difference.
Talk Radio Europe presents Behind the Mic with Kenny Jones.